You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepa! What up, me hit? This is your boy, Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. Yo, today we got a dope, dynamic duo. They got a fire project coming out from Penguin Random House, all right? Called the Under Kingdom. Let me first up introduce the first person that showed up that was on time. The artist, the mighty one, the only, the amazing. Yo, we connected on an awesome level in that agreement. I can't wait to talk more on our nerdiness. The one, the only, Marie Enger. Wepa, how you doing?
Good, how about you? I was early because I am in the North American time zone. I didn't have to wake up. I just got to do my average 3 o'clock roll in.
There we go.
Poor collaborators on the other side of the world in the early wee morning hours.
Oh, man. So let me introduce the person that I have put on the spot. Apologies. I did not know you having your coffee. But let me say you're an amazing writer with that fire project. The other half of this dynamic duo, the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Christof. I messed up that.
Totally fine. Bogacs.
Bogacs. Christof Bogacs. Wepa. That's right there. You hear it, folks? Yo, there's an awesome dynamic duo. They got this fire book. It's coming out from the Penguin House on the Kingdom. We're going to get all into that. But you know how it is. This Comic Crusaders podcast, we need to get into origin stories. So although I introduced me first, all right, I was being nice because, she was early. But, however, because now, I didn't realize I'll be nice. Let's start with you. I'll start with you now. All right. So a bit about yourself. Where you OG from? Where you at now? And just, what was your first love of fandom?
Interesting. Yeah. It's me, right? I'm going first?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I live in Sydney, Australia. So I was born here. I'm from Australia as much as anyone can kind of be from Australia, unless you're, it's a little bit like America in the sense that, obviously we're very much a country of immigrants, unless, you're a First Nations, Indigenous Australian, then you are from here. So my family is British and Austrian. But I'm just pretty much Australian, lived here my whole life. In terms of, I guess, my first fandom, man, that's a good question. Man, I think it would probably be X-Men. Pretty sure it would have been X-Men. Yeah.
Comics or cartoon?
The movies, the live action movies.
The movies. Oh shit! Yeah. Wow, someone came different. Everybody always tells me that the cartoon or the comics. You're the first one that says, "Yeah, with the movies."
No, I was cool. So I was brought up in quite a conservative religious household. So I was brought up Seventh-day Adventist. So it was quite. I don't know if I've talked about this on other interviews, but the media I kind of had access to was quite limited. So as I kind of got older and lived on my own and stuff, I kind of found a lot of stuff really late. And the X-Men films were one of those things that I found really late and kind of just became super into. And then from there got into comics.
When did you watch the X-Men movie?
Oh, I would have been like 19.
What?
9?
Yeah,
I guess I didn't think that Wolverine was so sinful. I thought he I guess he had I guess he fights, but what are you supposed to do when you're skeleton made of adamantium?
X-Men.
I remember I had an X-Men. I think it was I had like a Wolverine poster, and my mom just did not like the poster. She was she was like, "It's demonic. I don't like it." I'm like, "It's Wolverine."
Wolverine
your
is
mother
demonic.
Flipped. Your mother would have flipped with me because I used to put a Freddy, Jason, and I mean the Jason with the rotted face poster from the Fangoria
Oh
magazine.
yeah.
That was the only poster my mother made me take down because my brother was terrorized. He was a little kid at the time, and because of that, I punished him. So anytime he would try to watch a horror movie with us. We would make believe we were zombies. We would flip our eyes, make them white, and we're gonna eat your brain. And this kid would just go running, and we terrorized him for life. And
He
funnily
showed
enough,
weakness once.
funnily enough, he's the biggest horror fan today.
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
how it happened to me.
Yeah.
I was afraid of like the masks in the Walgreens for Halloween. I wouldn't go in there if I knew one rubber mask was in there that was off limits. I refused to go in.
Oh, no,
And now I
that's
love
too
horror
funny.
movies. I couldn't handle it. Something about the way that like, okay, so movie gore is so different than like actual gore, and it's
Yeah, I
super
get it,
like
yeah.
I feel like you can smell it in a weird way, and it smells like latex, and it's no good.
Totally.
Yeah, I love
But
it. Love it.
oh, spooky.
Love All right, so my man here from just a man boy Dodgy, because I do a show with my man from Australia too. We call it the Yeah Nah Wepa show.
Oh,
So-
whereabouts is your your co-host from?
But he says Sydney side. Don't
Yeah,
tell me,
okay.
Dodgy. Yeah.
It's funny. Australia's kind of a weird place in the sense that whenever I go to the States, I'm always like amazed by like how many big cities you have. Like,
Yeah.
there are so many different places to live. Whereas Australia, we've just kind of got a few big cities along the coast, and that's it. No one really lives in the middle of the country.
It's empty. Oh my gosh! I could build up my
Pretty much.
domain there. You trying to say? Let's go.
You're in Morton Joe domain.
Let's go.
You could run all the water of the wasteland.
Let's go.
Isn't it
Yeah.
Isn't there like one big highway through like the middle of it that semis can
Oh
go
yeah,
on?
the Nullarbor.
The Nullarbor.
That'd be
Oh,
so
man.
scary to drive.
I would dress up like Mad Max for real and just go. Let me drive this highway. Let me see what happens.
That's so long.
Listen. I told my boy, I used to joke. I watched more Australian shows than him because you guys had a lot of cool superhero shows and horror shows with that Wolf Creek when they went episodic.
Oh
I
yeah.
loved- It was pretty creepy, yo. In Australia, yeah, it was an Australian show. Wolf Creek went
I didn't know
episodic. I was like,
That's right, yeah.
yo. Same
know
that
dude,
was
same
Australian.
actor. Yeah, they picked it up. They did that Evil Dead
That's
style.
right. Yeah,
the same
John
actor.
Jarrett.
Interesting.
I actually
Oh.
have some goss about that I will talk about off air.
Awesome.
But it's not unfortunately it's not on air goss.
Hey, all right.
I love secret goss.
Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna get that bochincha later, and don't worry, I will not share it, folks. It will stay. I'm a vault. All right, Marie, your turn. So, where you from? OG and origins of your fandom.
I am originally from Phoenix, Arizona, but I moved to a rural community in Missouri when I was like 11, and now I live in St. Louis, which is like an hour outside of the rural community that I moved to. And I like it. I like St. Louis well enough. Missouri kind of super sucks, but St. Louis is cool. And my biggest fandom. Okay, so I'm super into Clive Barker still. So lasting fandoms
Nice.
was Clive Barker because I got into all of his stuff, like his kids stuff when I was a kid. So like Aberrat was my favorite thing ever growing up. And then Thief of Always I super loved. And then when I was like 16, I saw Clive Barker, like, I think it was like Everworld or something like that. It wasn't even Books of Blood, but it was like Everworld. And I was like, oh, I got to pick. Oh, it was Great and Secret Show. It was Great and Secret Show. So I picked that one up and I started reading it and I was like, oh, Clive Barker is not an author for kids. He's like an adult author for adults. And it's like gruesome and bloody and super weird. And that was kind of it. I got super into his stuff. And from there, I got into like, other weird like stuff. I'm not super into like.
Tell me the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, the Poe stuff, all that crazy.
I had my Poe moment. I never had an H.P. Lovecraft moment because I read one story by him and I was like, you suck. This is boring to read and your language is gross. And also old.
His
and it was
language
boring.
is crazy, but Oh, really?
I could not
I
get
like
into
this.
it. It was
It's crazy. It's
he
dated. It's dated for
nah.
sure, but it's
It
crazy.
was, but I was too irreverent. I was like, I don't care about you. I'm gonna move on. So I think I like read Call of Cthulhu because I was like, I gotta start somewhere. And then
Yeah.
I think from there it was like Brian Evanson is like my Eldritch dude. I love his stuff. Stephen Graham Jones. Oh my God, Victor LaVille. I love their stuff. Cassandra Caw is doing super cool like Eldritch stuff now, but I didn't get super into that until like 6 years ago when I started writing like Eldritch fiction books. I was super unknown to it. I like I like a lot of I like music more than I like art fandoms. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
love Clive Barker, but I also just love weird zine. Like I like black and white zine comics that are produced on like a photocopier. That was always like my big love until I got into comics. I was one of those people. And I'm still one
It's
of those
not a
people.
problem, but I grew up on I grew up on Conan. You know,
There
the
was
Savage
no
Store black and white. That was my joint. So I grew up on black and white. I'm always been a
I love
fan
that
of black
stuff.
and white and always will be. I loved Walking Dead when it first came. People ignored it. I'm like, yo, this book is so good. And they told me, I swear to God, their words were, it's not in color. It's like, come on, like, really? It's not going to be much. I'm like, really? Okay. How
No
mistaken were
manga
they?
is in color. Why are we not allowed to be in black and white
Right?
and be badass? Like it sucks. Like people
Right?
and I'm not
Manga
knocking
okay,
color.
but not comics. Insane.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I love doing
ugh.
black and white stuff, but it's valued at like half the amount of color stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah,
sometimes black and white is harder because you have to make sure everything works without like color tricks. It stinks. I
totally.
love black and white comics. I'm
I
glad you liked Conan. I love Judge Dredd.
yeah,
Dodge, man.
I
Hell
was gonna
yeah. The
say
2008 stuff like that.
I love that shit.
Hmm.
on the color thing, I think people just incorrectly assume that like black and white is quicker. And like you said, Marie, a lot of the time you have to like
Yeah.
design stuff specifically around it.
It takes me way less time to do a black and white. No. Well, I don't know. Like I factor in I guess this is like a collaboration thing, but I always factor in like my time for colors and letters as different than inking pages, right? Because I can only ink about a page or two a day, but I can color like 5 to 10 pages a day. So
Yeah.
they take way less time to color, but I don't know. I feel like our flatters, Jordan and Jasmine, would probably disagree with me. They were really patient with us because we had like 2 people on our book who helped us fill in like all the color flats for me so that it wasn't so challenging, and they did a really good job, but I don't really envy their task because I do a lot of questionable shapes. It could be anything, and they guessed really well every time. So I don't know.
So, let me ask you guys, and going back to Christoph, did you have a tribe, if you will, in your fandom growing up, or were you a lone wolf in your fandom?
Lone wolf makes it sound so much cooler than just like a weird, weird kid without any friends.
Hey, if you want to be called a
yeah,
weirdo, it's all right. Whatever you want. bro.
totally. No, I was a weird, yeah. I was a bit of a weird, I was kind of like the weird, annoying Christian kid for a lot of
Okay.
my teenage years. I mean, the one thing I think that I kind of had a bit of community in was big into Warhammer. I still am now, so that was kind of my
Okay.
thing as like as a teen, and I would meet a lot of people through that. So that was kind of, I think, the closest thing I probably had to a tribe.
All right. Warhammer, so that was okay, but comic books weren't.
You know what? I think my mom, I think a lot of it, and I think a lot of kids from like strict religious upbringings will probably agree with this, but a lot of there's inconsistency in the media you have access to, because a lot of it has to do with how much your parents know about things. So they liked the fact that Warhammer was like, you know, like a tabletop game, so it's not like a video game, and like I was painting things, so they didn't need to know about like all the chaos demons and shit. But yeah, I think it's very much like how much how much your parents or how literate your parents are in particular things kind of equals how much access you get.
I could imagine them playing in the room, and the chaos demon swarms, and mom comes in, and the angel's about to feed the little children, and he diving in and kind. Yeah, that's how we play with it. Yeah. What about you, Marie? Lone wolf or the cool kid?
There was not even a bookstore in the town that I grew up in. And I remember when my boss at work, I worked like a job after school at a factory. And my dad also worked at the same place. And so he told our boss once that I was super into graphic novels, and that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And he avoided me for a straight week, and then finally came up to me as I was filing stuff and was like, "Your dad says that you want to draw graphic novels forever." And I was like, "Yeah." And he got like this deer in the headlights look and walked off. And he went into my dad's office a week later and was like, "I just found out that graphic novels aren't porn. And they have a whole section for them at Barnes and Noble."
Oh, yeah,
so
amazing.
That's the sort of community that I grew up in. And I was a very lonely, weird kid who spent a lot of time online.
Wait a minute. This is killing me. They took the word graphic literally in graphic novel.
Oh, yes. And many of them still do. I like, we had like I don't want to doom spiral because it's like, it's super easy to doom spiral, but like Missouri is gonna ban Under Kingdom. Like they look at like whatever tag is on the front of the book, and if it's a graphic novel and it's graphic, it's porn. And if it says LGBTQIA+ on that book, it's banned. It's a weird place because like Christof, like you said, you were doing like cool creative things with Warhammer, and if your mom had known about the demon stuff, probably wouldn't have gotten to do all that cool stuff. But like I had so many mental health problems growing up that my parents were just like, comics, drawing, whatever, do that. We're happy.
Totally.
We're happy that you're happy. And so they never cared. But the community was not super into the stuff that I was into and what I wanted to read. Do you remember the movie Time Machine that came out in like 2001 or 2?
Yeah. It sounds familiar.
Yeah. I went and saw that, and it was a remake, yeah. And so it was terrible. I remember it not being very good. But I remember taking like the friends I had at the time to the movie, and they hated it. And for the rest of my time in that town, I was never allowed to pick another movie to go to. So I had picked the wrong movie one time.
Oh,
so now I don't go back to that town. And I've got lots of friends now who let me pick movies. It stinks. It's super weird. It's just it was not a good movie, but it was okay.
Listen, I am credited. My reviewer, may he rest in peace. My first movie reviewer for Comic Crusaders. He was a known movie reviewer out in Ireland, and I had gotten a movie for review in the comic realms. And I said, "Yo, homie, send me this review. Can you review it for the team?" He goes, "Sure, no problem, Al." In all confidence and happy. And then he credits me afterwards for giving him the worst movie he's ever seen in his life, and gave me a choice to review. He goes, "I could either be constructive or I could tear it up." I'm like, "Please be constructive, for the love of God, please constructive."
What was the movie? I need to know.
I'll tell you off screen. I don't
want to cool.
Actually, I'll tell you off screen. I don't want to embarrass the guy. Yeah.
But,
I love it. I mean, for real, when we passed away, at least that's one great memory that even his friends tell me, he credits you with that. He always credited you with the worst movie he's ever seen. And I go, "Holy shit, thank you."
Aren't you glad that he remembers you for something? I mean, I guess it's fun. I think it's fun. A bad movie is fun.
If I get to where he's at, I'm gonna be punished for sure. All right. So talk about getting creative. I go with Marie here. So talk about you starting to step into your creative journey in space. How did this even happen?
Yeah. I wanted to be an animator since I was 6. Like I walked out of Toy Story and I told my dad I want to be an animator, and he said, "You're going to have to learn Japanese if you want to be an animator so you can go animate in Japan," because anime was super big. And I was like, "Well, I don't think I can learn Japanese." So I let that dream die for a minute. But when I realized I couldn't be a marine biologist either because I was afraid of the open ocean, And my therapist was like, yeah, it's like everyone wants to be a marine biologist, but do you want to have to go sit out by yourself in the open ocean? Like,
No.
no, me neither. And
I don't
I
want
was
to
never
be.
going to
I
be.
don't want to be with myself in my apartment. Hardly, Jesus, man. The ocean.
It sounds awful. And so then I was like, well, I have to come up with something else. And I'm terrible at math and science, but I'm pretty good at writing. And my therapist was like, you need to draw. And so I started drawing Invader Zim fan art like every day. And that's why I draw this way, because there wasn't really like art classes in any of the schools that I went to. There was like maybe once a week you would have like drawing time, but that was kind of it. So I started drawing Invader Zim stuff, got really into like the 90s comics about a decade too late. So I got really into that stuff, and I would pirate stuff all over. So I had like copies of comic books that were like chopped up and all sorts of weird because they were just from wherever I could piece them together. And I was like convinced I was just going to do animation for the rest of my life. I went to school for animation, and then I got my first job in animation, and I was like, oh, this actually this sucks. It was a really grueling schedule. It was not as much money as I felt I should be paid if I was working such a grueling schedule, and the people who had been there longer weren't making as much money as I wanted to make if I was going to have to do that. And I was looking at like my future in LA, and I was like, when am I not going to have a roommate? When am I going to be able to live? Never. I'm going home. And so I came back to St. Louis, and there was a local creator here who was like, you have no job, you have no prospects, I'll help you out. And so I started doing like panel borders for him and filling in spot blacks, and I started coloring comics from there. And then I started like drawing them and lettering them and putting them together and going to conventions and doing like, I got really into horror. Yeah. So just like my own thing. Nice. And then I was at Emerald City in 2018, and I was tabling. Yeah. And then Christof came up, and at the time we were like both kind of looking for another project to do. I had been asked by Random House to submit something for YA, and I don't write stuff for kids, or I super didn't at the time. And Christof and I just hit it off really well. And so we came back from Emerald City and started working on Under Kingdom. I actually just found the pitch pages today as I was looking for something else. So that was kind of like what led us to, I don't know, up to Under Kingdom. Just a lot of drawing, and I love to draw, and I like to work on my own stuff with other people, and now I get to do that. So it's really exciting. I love it.
All right, Chris. Now tell us your journey, and then do you agree with the simplicity of the bromance right there, creativity? Made it easy peasy. We met, we kicked it off. That's it, easy peasy.
Look, so in terms of there's a little bit of background to before Marie and I met, which was that I was a big fan of their work, and I was very green, and they'd had done a handful of stuff at that point, so I was very intimidated. And I remember that I thought about Marie, like asking Marie about it to come on for a different project before I met them, and I remember thinking, no, they wouldn't want to work with me. They're a big shot. I remember thinking that, which I still am.
It's so weird.
Which I still believe. I mean, Marie is a big shot. I'm very fortunate to have them work with me, but it was just funny. I had that thought, and now Marie is, like one of my closest. Marie and Robert, some of my closest friends. I'm going to stay with them in a few days. I'll be in the States. Yeah. So like, it's just funny.
You're doing WonderCon?
No,
we're doing C2E2.
C2E2.
Oh, snap.
This is where you'll be staying, Christof. This is your room.
How exciting!
Right under that desk right there. There you go. You move the rug over. You're safe.
I can make it work. I'll curl up. I'll egg for the time I'm
we
there.
We have a curtain that we hang from the door, so it's like you have your own little like
how exciting
closed off area.
Yeah, so that's kind of the background there. But yeah, and one of the reasons Marie and I really connected is some similar taste in music, because Marie had put out a zine called Punks Win.
Yeah, it was Punks Win. I forgot about that until you brought it up again.
Oh,
there were two comics. particular there. That one was a song "Cheap Beer" by Fiddler that they illustrated, and then the other was it Pine Point by Pup?
Yeah, it would have been Pine Point. Yeah, Pine Point.
Yeah, so at the time I was super into both Fiddler and Pup, and I didn't really know anyone else who was, So when I saw those comics, I was like, oh, hell yeah, someone else kind of is into the same kind of like.
There's another weirdo. All right, great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, which is always, I mean, I think that's how a lot of people meet in comics. Is like you just kind of find out that you have something in common, and you just, usually it's something you love in common, and you just kind of go from there.
It was nice to have like the music aspect too, because then it wasn't always just about like comic stuff. Especially like when we were first friends, it was like you want to have lots of stuff to talk about, and so we had lots of stuff to talk about.
100%. Well, particularly I think with like when you find people who are into punk music in particular, like it doesn't mean you're going to have exactly the same like morals, but it's unlikely you're going to have huge moral clashes if you're both like punk music.
Did you have Marie try that thing you guys like in Australia, that salty spread? What's it called again?
Yeah. So Vegemite.
Oh, Vegemite. That's disgusting.
You brought us Tim Tams.
Oh, Tim Tams. Yeah. Oh, I love Tim Tams. Yeah, my boy brought me Tim Tams. I fell in love. I met the creator, a creator out there, and at the con, and my boy gave him a pack of Tim Tams. He goes, "You must be from Australia." He goes, "Bro, when I went to Australia, I had to buy another suitcase." Because that many people gave me Tim Tams. I bought a suitcase worth of Tim Tams back home.
Well, so
yeah, bro. But have you tried Vegemite, Marie? Please,
huh? Would you say? Vegemite. I haven't tried Vegemite yet. I've only ever had. No, blessedly, I have dietary restrictions, and I feel like Vegemite might kill me. It might actually kill me. It might be poison.
If you have high blood pressure, let me tell you, you're dying instantly then, because that is the saltiest, most disgusting thing I've ever tried in my life. I thought I was gonna die.
It looks like I would rather eat Nutella.
Don't trust these Australian folks. My boy Dodgy tricked the shit out of me, telling me it was gonna be nice. It's like butter. Yeah, butter my ass. Ugh. Or more, it tasted like ass butter.
Isn't it like
very? Oh, sorry, Marie.
No, I was just gonna ask if it was made of beer yeast, which is what I thought it was. Like it was like the cast off. Yeah. Okay.
It's like a yeast spread. What I was gonna say is that I have very, very strong ethical opinions about food, and one of them is that you should never trick someone into eating something. I'm very against food.
I like that.
I think food is such a sacred, wonderful thing. Sharing food with someone. I think food pranks are just.
Oh, okay. Everybody now.
I would never call a food prank.
Do not give Christof the Dorito challenge. You know that.
Oh no! Please no.
We made you eat.
When I did that.
We made you eat St. Louis style pizza when you came in.
Which I love.
Toasted raviolis.
I actually have been craving T-Raps. So.
We'll get you some T-Raps when you're in town. A toasted ravioli is a ravioli that's deep fried.
What?
Yep, it's awesome. People shit on St. Louis pizza because it's like a circle cracker square. But toasted raviolis are legit.
Okay, well you see,
so
don't
good.
try to. So I'm from New York, so don't talk about pizza because I'm sorry guys.
I do admit that we really cannot compete with your pizza, especially because our pizza is super weird. But if you want like a fucked up pizza experience, you're gonna want to go get the most fucked up pizza you can get, and you cannot get one weirder than Provel cheese because it's not technically a cheese. It's a dairy product because it has such a low melt point. Because when you're eating it by the rope, you don't want to choke on it and die. So it does melt at like body temp. Yeah.
The most morbid way of describing a pizza.
It comes out like you can get the flat sheets of it, but you can get like, when they like extrude sausage. So imagine that, but it's cheese. It's like in those like weird little like chunky ribbons in like a pile, and then you can just peel it. Oh, it's so good. It's got such a low melt point, so you never choke.
I'm sorry, I'm a pothead, and that does not sound appealing to me. Anyway,
delicious.
Right
now. I eat it whenever I have it. Like I have to ration my passion for it so that I can like have 4 days worth of the cheese. It's so good. You don't know.
It lasts 4
days. Never had it.
All right.
I
won't judge. I won't judge.
When you gotta come and have it.
Okay.
If you come in for Slice, which is our new St. Louis Comic Expo, and it's going to be sick, I hope. We'll take you out for some Provel. We'll get you some. We won't make you eat the pizza, but we will get you the little container of cheese so you can taste it. We'll get you toasted raviolis. Those are legit good. They're like fried ravioli. They're delicious. All right,
that sounds good. I'm a ravioli fan, so you got me on that one. Just don't talk.
I would highly recommend. I can't look. I understand, but St. Louis, those raviolis. Now I really want one. Anyway, they're so good.
Don't do it. I'll compare with your raviolis. I'll give you an empanada. All right. So, all right. Yeah. Let's go there. Yeah,
man, I had a super good one this past weekend with just I don't know what they did to this chicken inside it, but it was so good. It was so good. Anyway, it was just got like a
Mama's empanadas. A big shout out to Mama's empanadas. We're gonna go there. They got mac and cheese empanadas, cheeseburger empanadas, pizza empanadas, all types of them. Shrimp empanadas, you name it. You want that stuffing, and they got it.
Yes. Oh, wait.
Oh yeah, son.
Mama's empanadas, you said? I want to go there.
Mama's in Queens. Yeah. Let me tell you, man, that's the best spot to go to once you're drunk. You come out the club, you're good. You know, you need something to shake you up. There you go. Wepa, that's right. So back to books.
Hand.
So, do you agree with the bromance story though, Christof 100? It was really that easy peasy that you guys worked together and melded.
We went and got pizza. I think we had dinner that same night. Like you came up, you commissioned me for a Nightcrawler, and then we had dinner, and then we were friends.
He bought you first. He brought. He said, "Let me buy an art piece from you. Can I take you to dinner? I gotta talk to you."
No, I wasn't. So like my I don't know. Okay, so my convention ethos is I don't know who anyone is because I don't read enough comics that my friends don't write to know who anyone is. So I don't know who's famous and who is not famous. I don't read almost any big two stuff unless a friend of mine wrote it. So I don't know what's current. And I don't remember what anybody looks like from convention to convention. So unless you are a super cool person, I probably won't remember you. Like, unless you're a cool person to me and the other people around me. Yeah. And so, like, when Christof came up, like, I don't know, we just hit it off. And so I don't do BarCon. I don't do the networking stuff at conventions. Like, I don't want to say, like, the forced networking stuff, but, like, the stuff that kind of everyone expects to go to. I was brought into the comics community by this awesome guy named Herc. He's in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's awesome. Herc the Greek. If you're ever in Heroes, Herc is the guy to talk to. He knows all of the cool stuff in Charlotte, and he is an amazing guy for the comics community. But his whole thing was he saw me struggling to bring my stuff up once. We hit it off just briefly in that moment where he offered to help me. And he was like, "What are you doing for dinner on Saturday?" I had no plans. And he was like, "Come get dinner with us." And that was it. And now whenever I go to a show, if I meet someone who seems really cool, I just ask them to come have dinner with us. And sometimes it's people like Christof, who's like another creator, but I've had just like fans come to dinner on occasion just because they seem cool. Totally. And then they were cool. Nice. And now I have a friend. So I always have someone who brings me coffee at a convention because I have friends in every city now. It's awesome. Like, comics can be so cool. Just the whole community can be so cool. And I don't know. I highly recommend just inviting people you think are cool in comic book conventions out to dinner with other people, with a group of people, not like by yourself. Like I wouldn't do that if I didn't already know that we had like 5 other people coming. But it's a good way to make friends. And it was super low pressure. I think we went and had like pizza, and then we got records, and we went to like a bookstore. It was just super chill. And then we went back to BarCon. We didn't end up at the same place, but it was fun.
There we go. All right, so talk to me. What is Under Kingdom? Tell the folks, because we gotta start putting that paper in there. Do you have a copy? Don't you dare bring that up. Hey! Oh my gosh!
I have a whole box of these.
Yeah.
Nowhere else in America or Australia has them. They are in port right now. Our release date was pushed back by a week. Am I right?
Yeah. So the comic book release date is April 12th.
Yo, check that out. Nice thick books. Oof.
It is thick. Look at that. Well, my screen is probably not super great. Come on, please.
That is nice shelf porn right there. Look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's thicker than I expected, just because it's a little bit of a smaller book.
Hey, look at that.
But yeah, so Under Kingdom is a YA graphic novel from Marie and myself from Dark Horse Comics, and it's about this kid Shay whose mum disappears, and he finds out that she ran this kingdom of monsters that live underneath his town, and with her out of the picture, he now has to take over. But unlike his mum, who is who led the Under Kingdom with sort of strength and might, Shay's not a fighter. He's, a sweet kid. He doesn't want to fight. He's not very good at it. So he kind of has to figure out how he proves to these monsters that only really understand strength and power, how he can lead them. So it's about sort of staying kind and finding peaceful solutions, in a world that is often sort of quickly resorts to cruelty and violence.
Well, the origins of the story, though, how long did you have this story in you? Is this something that just popped up in the collaborative effort with Marie?
That's a great point. I mean, I'd been sitting on like the very kind of like the simplest form of the concept. So like the idea of like a kid's mom or someone's mom disappearing and then realizing that they have this like kingdom of monsters they have to look after. I had that idea for a while. And originally I was had thought about it as something like in the adult space, but it very quickly turned into like a Breaking Bad, like a fantasy Breaking Bad with monsters, which just isn't something that I want to write or could write particularly well. Anyway, so when Marie kind of approached me about, at the time, it was Random House asking for a pitch, although it ended up at Dark Horse. I just brought up Under Kingdom, and we kind of together reworked it as something, for a younger audience. So the very core premise I've had for a while, but the actual, what you see now when you pick up the book, is very much something that Marie and I cooked up together.
Nice. So Marie, what were you digging in artistically when you got the story?
Christof gave me every monster I wanted to draw. Like I love drawing like monster parades. So long lines of any sort of monster, and any monster I asked for got put in the book. So I get to draw whatever monster I want to draw. It's awesome. It was really great. I really enjoyed doing our pitch, which it's very weird now to look back at because the art is super clunky compared to what it is now. And this art will be clunky compared to what it will hopefully be in the next couple of years. But it was just fun. Like Christof came to me with this idea. I was like, this seems like a kid's book. I love monsters. Let's do it. And it felt really easy. It felt right. I don't know. We just kind of kept trading stuff back and forth, and it was a really easy project to work on because it was super good for my mental health. I loved working on it creatively. It was just fun. I don't know. I loved it. It was super easy. Totally. I think that you can see that I had a good time drawing it though, because it is packed. I really loved it. I don't know. Everything I wanted to draw, I got to draw in this book. I love dungeons. I love dankness. I love monsters and skeletons. I got through all that stuff. Feels good.
Oh snap! There we go. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So April 12th. That's a bit to
Yeah.
go. Are you guys excited? I mean, and
Mhm.
what's the plan? It's just a one shot because this is like a fat boy right there. 88 pages, I believe. Correct?
Yeah.
We want
Yeah.
to do
So
more.
yeah, we desperately want to do more. As is often the case in comics and the direct market is it's just a case of if the first book sells well, we can do more. But from a creative perspective, 100%. We've thought a lot about. Sorry, my girlfriend's just in the background. Wave, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
No, okay, you're
Oh
like
my
a
gosh. Is she
like a
behind a screen?
no. It's just because I don't know what's going on with my camera. It's not very good quality.
Oh, hazy. Hello.
Anyway, so like creatively we want to do more.
Okay.
That's desperately. But it really just depends on the sales numbers. So people, who have pre-ordered the book or are able to pick it up when it comes out, that's such a big help in hopefully, giving us the sales numbers we need to move on to another book.
What do people say rated on Goodreads? Give us a like and a review on
Totally.
Goodreads and Amazon. So that's the shill I have for that. But yeah, we have a outline for book 2 that is super solid and has a ton of awesome stuff in it. I would arguably say that it is better than book 1. And I'm really excited to draw the stuff that will get to be in it just because we got all the established world building stuff out of the way. Now it's just like we're here.
Yeah.
It just feels like you're just plunked into it. And there's so many I don't want to spoil any of it, but Christof came up with a couple of really exciting settings and landscapes and creatures and scenarios that if I was playing them in a D&D game, I'd be really excited. And if I was a kid who got to read a book about this stuff, it would make me excited to explore this stuff out of book, So I hope we get a second book. I hope our sales numbers are good so that we can do that because it would be really fun.
Let's manifest it. Let's manifest it, baby, because
I love
it's
it.
a fun read. Like I said in the green room, I got halfway through the book thus far. It's definitely been quite a ride. Fun, digging the characters and the world building and meeting everyone and seeing where this is going. So far, so good. I'm digging it. Going to see
Thank
where
you
it's
so much,
going.
Al.
And if you got a book 2 already planned, folks, we got to make this happen. Come on. I'm telling you, it's
We're
fun.
so ready.
Man, I'm digging
They
the
know.
art. I love this art style though. It's fun. It's different. It's true. I could see your anticipation for real.
Wait, you got Garble on.
You can tell from this beard. I love it.
There's a lot of my energy. I cannot contain it. It makes it hard to draw static things. It's gotta come out.
Yeah, I'm digging.
But it was nice too because I'd never gotten to do a young adult book before, and this was like the first time where I had to adjust the size of the page I was drawing on and the amount of stuff that I put in, and it was challenging. So I was very glad to have someone next to me to help me kind of rein it in.
I was gonna say that was a big theme of Marie just gives everything to every panel, and that's not always necessary. In terms of sometimes you don't need backgrounds, particularly writing for or at least my philosophy around writing for young people is clarity is really important. So if a particular panel is about a character action or emotion, well, let's just have that character and that emotion. We don't need the background. It kind of let's make it really clear what this panel is about and what the beat in the panel is.
A very Jack Kirby approach.
Yeah. But Jack Kirby needed help from the writer on this one to chill it out.
Definitely. Of course, but I'm saying in regards to the art, when he needed to bring something to the forefront, the background was irrelevant. It's it's about what the action is. Who cares about what's in the background right now?
I would never have gotten there without Christof. Everything would have had a background, for sure. And it would have taken 3 times as long to draw. But what's super nice about having a collaborator who you're friends with in real life and have other friendship connections with aside from just comics is they don't feel weird about telling you stuff that can make you improve. So I was really grateful for that because it was something that I had never thought of to address in this type of work before. And Christof's right, like clarity for kids is super important. We want them to be excited about comics and read more comics and not be confused. And my art can be confusing sometimes.
Well, I mean, I think
it can be.
Ages ago, my dad read one of my short comics and kind of struggled with it and was like, I don't quite understand, like, I just didn't quite understand the story. And at that moment, I was kind of reminded that like reading sequentials, you know, is a skill, you know, particularly if you're playing with form more and doing stuff that's a little bit more complex, like, you know, you have to kind of work your way up to it. So I think for kids and for younger people, you know, especially if like this might be, you know, hopefully for some young people, it's their first graphic novel. You kind of want it to be really, really, really readable and not have that, you know, learning curve that some other comics have, you know, which is, you know, which is great, obviously, you know, and I love comics that are
manga where you gotta read backwards.
Totally. Yeah, that's another great example where there's kind of like a little bit of a reading curve to it, the same way that like you couldn't just start reading prose and jump into something really dense, right? You know, you kind of have to work your way up to that.
You can't just pick up
exactly.
Awesome. All right, folks, this is what it is. I need you to pick up this book, April 12th. This is when it's coming out. All right. And Marie, if I need you to do a Hellraiser book or something along those lines, or a Weave World. I mean, if you could do any Hellraiser, or any Clive Barker story in art form right now,
any of them. I would do anything for Clive Barker. I mean, it's not like I totally didn't do an Aberrat fan comic a year ago. And it's not like I won't totally have that comic for sale at C2E2 or TCAF or Cake. I would never do anything like that. But I love, I would literally do whatever property they gave me for Clive Barker. When they were doing like the Hellraiser series a while back, a buddy of mine got to do a comic in that. And I was like, I missed out. And it was awesome. And his comic was sick. It was so sick. They're all sick. I love all. I love it all. I just made a couple friends of mine actually who are getting into horror watch Nightbreed a couple of months ago.
I love that
because
movie
like
so much.
I do too. And if you're like, if you are going, it's important to curate horror so that people feel like horror is accessible to them. Otherwise, they'll be afraid their whole lives. And everyone was smoking. Everyone needed a chill night. And you cannot watch Saw if you're stoned. You have to watch something fun and kind of colorful and weird. And if it's a horror movie, Nightbreed is the place to go. Awesome character effect. Well, character makeup. And they look funky and weird. So they're fun to laugh at a little bit. I love the painted version of Midian. I think that shot in particular is super cool. I don't know. I like all the Nightbreed. I think they're all super neat. But what I forgot was Nightbreed's also a super weird movie. And so my friends were like, what is happening? What's going on? What's happening? And I was getting so frustrated. I was like, it's Midian. It's just Midian. Accept it. It's Midian. But then Nightbreed also, like, whenever they put it on a new streaming platform, they add like an extra 10 minutes or a new ending or a chunk that you've never seen before.
The director's cut.
Yeah. And so we're watching this movie and there's a 10 extra minutes on the end of it that I had never seen before. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And they were like, it's Midian, Marie. It's Midian. And I was like, I've been got.
No, it's not.
I was like, oh, I'm so angry. But it was so weird to watch. Like, I kind of love all Clive Barker stuff, regardless of quality. So I think it's fun, and I would literally do anything. Clive should message me. I'm a huge fan.
Clive, manifest. What can we manifest?
Anything for Clive Barker to notice me. It's not like I totally didn't also like write a parody version of him into my own books, or I don't think. Is there Pinhead reference in Under Kingdom? I know I did a couple Hellboy ones, but I wouldn't be surprised if I hid one of those in there too. I think it
feels familiar, but I can't think of like a specific panel. But if you haven't,
I might have called him like
need to going forward,
like Needle Noggin or something stupid like that. Like I just Anyway, I thought he was a kid's author until I was an adult and I realized he super was not.
But yep, I get it. You get it. Let me tell you, I was a big fan. Movies, comics, and all. But I found them through comics first, through Tapping the Vein. I don't know if you've ever
Which
seen
is
that
crazy.
Series.
Like, what an awesome way to find his work first way. Like, I kind of can't imagine coming to it from comics. I know some people who found him through film first, and that's crazy too, to me. Yeah. But I guess also most people don't read his young adult literature first either. He's like,
it wasn't accessible at the time either. It was definitely out there.
he was like my Harry Potter was Aberrat, which is super weird because people are like, I'm Hufflepuff, I'm Ravenclaw. I'm like, I'm from the Big Gay Island hours. I'm 5 a.m. I think that was like Ninnyhammer. No, Huffaker. I'm on Huffaker. So forget your Hogwarts house. What Clive Barker Island are you from?
You hear this, Clive? Marie's ready. All right, so let's see.
I'm so ready.
Christof, what you ready for, Christof? If you had a dream project right now, hand it to you, what would that dream look like?
That's a great question. I mean, Warhammer comics, I would love to write. I mean, that's probably number one for me in terms of like licensed properties. Such a fun. I mean, I have a lot of strong feelings about like Warhammer, and ironically, I think I've mentioned in other interviews how ironically Warhammer, I mean, played a big role for me in like Under Kingdom in the sense that one of the things I love about Warhammer is it kind of, you wouldn't expect this from like a grim dark war game, but it teaches you radical empathy in the sense that because you have all these different factions and they all have their own lore and stories, like even the bad guys, will have like novels dedicated to them. So you it means that like it never justifies what they do, but it explains it. So you're like, oh, I understand like why this guy murdered like 20 people and summoned a demon. It's because of this and that. And that's so it kind of teaches you like, and that's what I've kind of always loved about Warhammer. And like recently I read like one of the 40k novels about like this big orc dude, and it like spent so much time being like, this is how orcs see the universe. This is why they believe what they believe and all this kind of stuff. By the end of it, you like empathize with this like big orc who has a big claw for a hand, so I love that. I love that aspect of it. And I would just, and also like the funny thing about Warhammer is it, so, it obviously came out of 40k in particular, came out of Thatcher's England. So it really kind of has, it has a very strong anti-fascist bent that I think has only aged better and better. So I just love Warhammer. I mainly do Age of Sigmar, which is a fantasy one, but I enjoyed the 40k lore, so anything in that world would be a dream project.
It would be awesome to see a bunch of different artists take on like a Warhammer version for you, like the different. It'd be so super cool to do like an anthology of Warhammer stuff.
Yeah,
actions.
I kind of, Marvel's done a little bit of stuff in that space, but I don't know if, if the Warhammer comics haven't got traction or if there's something with licensing or what the issue is. But, I'd love to see more of them because a lot of the books they've done, have felt very safe in terms of the first one was like a Space Marine book, using like the most kind of popular chapter of the Space Marines, which is fine. And I know Karen Gillan did it and I heard it was really, really good. But it's like, I wanted to see some of the weird stuff. Like, give me a Chaos Space Marine book. Give me a Space Orcs book.
How about this one? I got you guys right now. The perfect team-up book. What if one of those Warhammer armies disappeared in the middle of a battle and landed in Meridian?
It's there. Oh my god, I would love to. I think Clive Barker himself would sign off on a Warhammer Midian crossover.
Oh shit! Right there, but it'll be done, son.
You could probably make it work. One of the things I love about like Warhammer is it's just everything. There's pretty much all aspects of like all sci-fi and fantasy and like the different armies. It just kind of like just consumes and takes from everything, which I love.
There we go. Folks, man, aren't these folks so awesome? And I've been showing this off nonstop. You gotta follow Christof Marie on all the socials because they locked it down. All right, so it's bottom right there. Follow Chris, follow Marie. Click away. This book is dropping on the 14th. Dark Horse Comics for real. It's a fire book. You like fantasy, you like fun. Like I said, I caught hints of that Clive Barker kind of world building type, and I was so happy that I was kind of leading this right way. I was like, yeah, these people are into this, awesome writing, awesome art, great book. I mean, 88 pages, folks. Wepa.
Yeah,
Show it again. Show it again.
I'm so proud of it. Look at that.
Look at that. Look. How pretty that
we
book
got.
Self.
Look at our spot gloss. Look at that. Shiny.
That's some self.
If we get more than one book, I want to set it up so that all the monsters are on the corner. So you have like a little monster parade on your spine of books.
Oh, yeah.
We've got our dwarves here.
Yeah.
But maybe next time we'll have skeletons or gnomes or other things. Lots of monsters.
You see? Make it happen, folks. You want that type of self porn. It only makes those shows look sexier, especially when it's quality, good storytelling, and world building. This is what these two dynamic duo right here is up to. So please show the love, show the support. Again, follow them. Tell your LCS you want this book. All right. Again, links below. I'm gonna share everything, even the code, to make it easy for you. I'm gonna add it right after this. And you just go to your shop, boom, boom, boom. Make it happen. This is what happens when you connect. You get that USA and Australia once again, making greatness happen, baby. Wepa! I can't wait. And we want volume 2, so make this out, mi gente, all right? Make it sound.
Yes.
All right? So, again, show the love to Marie, Christof. Thank you so much, mi gente. You know what to do. Thank you for tuning in, for listening, for watching. Hasta la próxima. Much love. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please...
Sweet!
Awesome.